woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. We're in woods where we landed, with 2 rows of Knicks to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the...
Welcome, everyone. I am Brian Clements, alongside Bob Clements, and Bob is back in the studio again.
That's
finally.
two,
We had to
2 weeks in a row here.
We had to pry him away from the lake.
I'm heading to the lake next week, so you'll see me at the lake next week.
There we go. Yeah, we'll see him at the lake, but that's okay. We love having him in studio, and honestly, this is a topic tonight that is Bob centered. I mean, when it comes to
I built my business on what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and like he said, he has built his business on building processes, because processes are king when it comes to being an entrepreneur, when it comes to being a business owner, even when it comes, being a streamer, being whatever it is creating those consistent processes to help your everyday flow. So again, I say this every single podcast, but I'm super excited about this, and it's fun. And the biggest thing, and Bob and I were just talking about this is podcast number 10, which 95% of podcasts never make it to episode 10. And we have come such an incredibly long way. We went from sitting at a kitchen island to cameras and lights and TVs and
building a studio.
Archie Manning signed Old Miss helmet and Super Bowl rings over there.
Exactly.
But no, it's going to be fun. But I will say that getting to this point, we didn't get to this point without building some processes. I mean, we have a process, and whether that's a process of how we create what we're going to be talking about,
right,
or how we even set up our setup. I mean, we've got it now down to a science, but the first time we set this up, it was
ugly.
It was ugly. Trying to get the soundboard, trying to get the computers, trying to get the cameras, trying to get the TV. Everything was a freaking mess.
For anybody I've done a lot of meetings in hotels where I love AV guys.
Yeah.
Because they go, what do you need? And I go, I don't know. You just tell me what to do. Tell me when you're ready for a mic check.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I have no idea what you're doing, but I love what you do, and I appreciate it.
I love that I don't have to do it.
Exactly right. So I have a lot of respect for my hotel AV guys.
Oh yeah, they're incredible. So if we could just get a hotel AV guy to come here every Wednesday,
he'd go like,
he'd be like, oh my God, this is horrible. And you guys are making this way more complex.
And by the way, we have reached 10, which is exciting. But there's a lot of people that thought we probably should have stopped at the 5th one.
There's a lot of people who probably should.
I know you're excited about the 10th, but really at 5, that's probably where.
No, but it's been awesome, and I will say that, like, if you look back on our 10 episodes that we've done so far, and this is a huge celebration for Unplugged Unfiltered. But if you look back at the 10 episodes that we've done, we've had. First off, we've had 3 truly incredible guests.
We have been blessed with.
I mean,
Cass and Mike.
You have Cass and Mike,
Anthony,
who've been part of $10 billion worth of entrepreneurial exits. I mean, they sold a company for $745 million, and then they came out with the book Shoveling Shit.
And I believe it's doing okay. Like it's on the top. It was last week on the top 5 of the New York Times bestseller.
When I was just talking to Mike earlier today, and they're like on the US Times top selling list, which and everyone doubted them. Like everyone, and
my guess is that Mike gave him the finger.
100%.
When they did.
No.
They doubted him.
But no, it's just incredible.
Cass would have been a little more classy.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I don't know. Cass is very competitive, so she probably would have given him the double finger. But with Cass and Mike being on here, it was just incredible. Anthony Masucci is such an incredible story. Incredible in the journalism side, and then taking that and saying like, okay, here is the thank you to grade school teachers that created who Anthony is today. And he's built a very successful business off of that. Just incredible. And then Seth Neistat. I mean, Seth is, again, an incredible entrepreneur. Met him through Mike and Cass. But I can't say thanks enough to all of our guests that we've had so far. And I can't say thanks enough to you.
Because you just keep paying me and I'll show up.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because the payment actually goes the other way. And more than anything, I will say this to everyone who's watching, is I started this because, first off, I love helping entrepreneurs, right? I'm an entrepreneur myself. I am still deep in the shoveling of shit as an entrepreneur, but I love helping businesses. I love helping entrepreneurs. And this was something, but more than anything, it gave me an opportunity to force you and I to sit down once a week and have a conversation. Because awesome. with life and everything that happens in life, we get so disconnected because there's so much other shit going on. And this truly gave us that opportunity to say, like, okay, we're going
to be clear, we interact a lot anyway,
we do.
So it's not like, but this is a special time.
It is.
Really
it is
because this is something you and I are both passionate about.
100%.
I love entrepreneurship. I just
Absolutely.
love it. I'm passionate
so,
about it,
I'm excited, but with that, with all of the thanks, with
let's
all
wrap
of
it.
All of the gratitude. Yeah, that was a great episode.
That was a great episode.
We're gonna go celebrate.
Looking for number 11.
Yes. It was the best 10th episode that we've ever had. It was also the shortest, but we had to get number 10 in. So
exactly.
we got it out of the way. We'll see you guys next week. But with that, we are going to talk about processes and what processes do to, I don't know, help an entrepreneur, help a business, help employees of a business. And one of the things that, as I was thinking about, this podcast and what we're going to talk about, the title that came to me was this hustle to harmony, why process is power, right? We, as entrepreneurs, we hustle,
right?
We hustle. But that doesn't create harmony. And I was on a meeting today, actually, with a company for my software company. And I have a chief administrative officer. She's amazing. She's great at what she does. But I create the hustle. She creates the harmony, right? I create just total fucking chaos in our company. And she goes, probably shouldn't do that, Brian.
But pull it back in just a
but she takes everything that I do and creates a harmony with it.
Right.
And she creates, and not only her, I mean, I have my COO, incredible as well, creates incredible processes. But between the two of them, they take all of my hustle, they take all of my ADD, and my mind, my entrepreneurial mind, and they go, okay, let's put that into a process so that it can be repeated over and over again. And so that's really what we want to talk about is, saying, like, as an entrepreneur, like, it's great to hustle. It's great to do that. But we have to have, first off, processes so that we can repeat it. And second off, we have to have processes so we can expand on it.
Right.
Right. As I can do anything myself a couple of times. I can do anything myself and my team a million times. But unless I have the processes to drive my team, I'm going to have to re-explain myself every time. So anyways, talking about processes, I'm super excited about it. Bob, just give us, from your perspective, from what you've done with dealers, from how you've worked with dealers, how important are processes in business?
Well, I always go back as I work with the dealers we work with. One of the common themes is they say, well, everything is just chaotic. And I would go, well, the reason you have chaos is because you have no processes. I said, so let me ask you a question. I says, how much money do you make when things are chaotic? And they go like, oh my God, we leave money on the ground all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. And I says, okay, so that's what chaos does. Chaos burns cash.
Yes.
Okay. Processes generate cash. Okay. So if we're in business to make obscene amounts of money, which we all are, I mean, that's our number one goal. Yes. We're in business to make money.
Yep.
I tell people, as long as what you're doing is not illegal, immoral, unethical, or life-threatening, go for it. That's what entrepreneurs do. So you've got this, you can't cheat people. You can't screw people out of money. That's not what you're an entrepreneur is for.
100%.
You got to be honest with people, right?
Yeah.
But as long as you're being honest with them, right? You're honest, ethical, nothing you're doing is going to kill anybody in the process. Okay. Then game on, 100%. So as I'm talking to dealers about processes, and again, in a dealership, you got a service department, a parts department, a sales department, and many times a rental department. Then you got an administrative department. So you really got 5 different businesses inside of the businesses that we work with.
Absolutely.
And so as we talk about processes, they sit there and go like, well, I don't really have time to do processes. And I go, well, I said, let me ask you a question. I says, do you do accounting in your dealership? And he goes, oh yeah, Mary does that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mary's the one that steals from you, right? We talked about that. Right?
100%.
She's the one that's been with you 20 years that watches your kid that goes to church with you. She's my red flag thief.
She has stolen all of your money. Yes.
But anyway, I said, so you do accounting? And they go, yes. And I said, so how do you do accounting? They go, I don't know. I said, we use QuickBooks or we use like software like Triton or something like that to do it with. And I go, well, understand that accounting is a process.
Yes.
Okay. And the accounting process has been the same accounting process for 3,000 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I can take anybody's financials, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And I can look at them and they're all exactly done the same way.
Absolutely.
An asset is an asset, a liability is a liability, right?
Yep.
I can look at them. I said, so that's the value of process.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't do that, and sometimes you said, well, that's an asset, and other times you said this thing, well, that's a liability, then everything is screwed up and nothing's going to work. So don't tell me you don't use processes. You do. Okay?
Yeah.
Because Mary or whoever is doing something in accounting that's a 3,000-year-old process, and it's done the exact same way everywhere in the world. Because that's the other thing I always laugh. People say, well, you don't understand, but my business is different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Accounting's not different anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You know, so the first thing you have to do is get them to go, okay, yeah, I agree with you on that. But Bob.
Yeah.
Okay. Then because there's always the thing, but you don't understand my business and I'm so different than anybody else. And it makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Yeah.
Because business is business.
100%.
Right. And I think it's Cass and Mike and everybody you talk to, business is business. Once you understand how to make money in business is relatively easy. You know, so again, then it's a matter of saying, okay, the other thing is because it does take some time to build processes.
Yes.
You know, but again, but you just have to start out. And it's like I tell people in the dealership, in the service department, you know, what's the first thing we have to do? And they go, well, we have to, I don't know, check equipment in. Okay. So your first step of the process would be, I don't know, let's check equipment
check
in.
something in 100%.
Okay. And then I say, now what's the next thing we have to do once we check it in? They said, well, we have to get some information. Well, share with me. What information should we get?
Yes.
I don't know, their name, their address, an email address, maybe a cell phone number. Okay. Collecting information will be step 2 of the process with subsets underneath that. They go like, well, that's it. I go, yeah, you're already doing a process. You just don't have it standardized.
Yeah. You don't have it documented.
Yeah. You don't have it documented. And if it's not documented, it's not a process.
Well,
right?
And the reality of it is the truth is, you know, when your business or when your processes live in your head, you are one bad day away from it all stalling out.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, it's like,
crap, Brian got run over by a bus.
Yeah. And I remember I was at a dealership just outside of Joplin, Missouri. And there was the service manager at that time. His name was Brian. And I said, well, what happens if you get hit by a bus? Well, about the 5th day I was down there, he goes, are you trying to kill me off by getting hit by a bus? Because that's, I said, no. I said, the reality of it though, is everything is in your head. There's nothing documented. Right. And so if we don't document it, the moment that you are not here is the moment that everything falls to the wayside. And we all live in processes, whether it's I wake up every morning, I put my house slippers on, I get out of the bed, I go start the coffee machine, and then I go brush my teeth, get the kids up, get them ready for school. Like it's a process, right? Now that process doesn't necessarily need to be documented because no one else necessarily needs to do it. It's my thing.
Right.
But when it comes to business we're not always going to be there. We're not always going to have a good day. There's sick days, there's vacations, there's this. And I have seen businesses truly just fall apart if you go, oh, well, best of luck. And like you said, we all live by these processes, but how do you make it repeatable? How do you make it monitorable? Like, how do we look at the analytics of it? Because you know, it goes, oh, well, we fly by the seat of our pants. Well, I can't measure fly by the seat of our pants. I can measure processes. So I think as processes get built, and like you said, we all live by processes. They're not always documented, and documenting processes are really, it can be very daunting. Right. And you could hire a company like yours. You could bring in a software like mine that helps with those. And I will say that makes life 1,000 times easier having someone do it. It's like cleaning your house, right? You look at, you go, oh, I'm going to clean my house. It's like, oh shit, there's a lot of stuff to clean.
Which is why we hire people to clean
for $250. I could have someone come in and clean it.
And they've been cleaning it for years and they know how to clean it.
They do a really good job of it. So we are the maids of processes. Exactly. But I will say that, and this is, anybody who's listening who is interested in software, don't listen to this part because this gives away trade secrets, and it really doesn't give away trade secrets. And if you are interested in software, if you need software, use these trade secrets because they are a life changer. But documenting processes is hard, right? Unless you hire someone like you or me to come in and do it.
Right.
But there is the best process documenting software out there that is free or $20 a month.
Right.
It's called ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Right. And that is something that, as we kind of dig into today's episode, is I want to talk about is, the action you can take right now. So if you have a process, whether you are a maid service, you could be a maid service, you could be a streamer, you could be a podcast group, you could a software company, a consulting company, you could be any of those. And ChatGPT is your process documenter for all of those. I mean, all you have to do is create a repeatable step. And the thing with ChatGPT, especially if you have it on your phone, there's a microphone button, right?
Right.
And
you can talk to software today?
Yeah, you can.
Most of your competitors are not aware of it.
Yeah. You can actually talk to software. It's a pretty cool feature. It's only been around for 15 years, but it's fine. Legacy software. It's great. But with that being said, all I have to do is, so I can click ChatGPT and say, hey, chat, I want to create a repeatable system for name the task, right?
For a marketing plan.
For a marketing plan.
For marketing. It could be anything.
Help me break it down step by step. And chat, you know what it's going to say? It's not going to be like, oh, fuck you. I don't get paid enough.
I don't get paid enough. You're only paying me $20 a month for me. What do you want?
Yeah. It's going to go, okay, here's some ideas for marketing plan. And we're going to break it down by, here's how we engage clients. Here's how we do weekly social media or scheduling. Here's our email replies. Here's our sales follow-ups. And it just created all of that for you off of one simple prompt. Yeah. And so now you're starting to build that. Now, I will say, and I'm going to let you talk to this because this is something that you've kind of actually been teaching me a little bit on, is the projects inside of ChatGPT, right? I when I first started using ChatGPT, and I'll be honest, I'm still really bad at it. I don't create projects. I just chat's up. I just start typing away. Right. But the project side, so creating a process inside of a process, is the ChatGPT project. So explain to everybody, like if I'm creating a marketing process and I'm creating maybe a sales process or an engagement process that's outside of marketing, like I want to engage with my viewers that I currently have. Like, what does the project benefit you? How do you benefit from creating a project over just typing things into ChatGPT?
Yeah. So again, and this is one of the things that I'm working on a lot with our dealers, really trying to get dealers to embrace AI. But again, so in your free version of Chat, you can't actually create a project.
Yeah.
But in your paid version, it's $20 a month. And again, it's nothing. And I tell people, if I had to pay $200 a month for Chat, I would give OpenAI $200 a month to help them fight Microsoft in their lawsuit against Microsoft, right? Although Microsoft did give them $14 billion to get started, so they should have a little bit of authority there. A little bit. So anyway, but so in the paid version of Chat, you can create a project, and a project is, just think about Chat as all these multiple personalities.
Yeah,
it's like this Freaky Friday thing. It's all these personalities, and a project directs the personality to do something.
Yeah.
So in a project, as an example, we have a project set up called Estimate Builder. So again, in the world that I work in, we work with dealerships who have service departments, parts departments, sales departments. They have to do warranty filings, look up parts and stuff like this. So we created one called Estimate Builder.
Yeah.
And in it, so that's a project. So it's this little unique personality that we have Chat set aside part of its brain for.
Yeah.
And in it, you create instructions. Okay. And so in ours, we have 5 things that we told Chat, the little crazy one over here that's doing estimates for us. Here are 5 things that we need in everything that you build out for me. Here's how you price them out. Here's the variables on different types of technicians required different times. I want everything printed out on here's the estimate for the customer. I want the time on everything. I want the torque specs on everything. I want the parts on everything, both OEM parts and aftermarket parts.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I want you to give me a copy of something I can copy and paste on the work order that talks about what we've done. And finally, I want you to give me a written overview that I could share with a customer who's got a mental capacity of a 7th grader,
Yeah.
and explain to them why they should be doing this. And so we've got that all built out in one, and we continue to add to the instructions. But now I can put in, I have a 4240 John Deere tractor that we need to put new shims and the injector pump on. And where it would have taken a service writer probably 30 minutes to do a quote on it.
Yeah.
Chat will do it in a little under 1 minute with everything. And it gives me the entire process on how to do something.
And you're saying that you can do that for $20 a month.
Yes. And I would pay $200 a month to be able to do it.
Okay. So everyone who's out there, right? Everyone, I'm looking at the camera right now. Find me an employee that is cheaper than $20 an hour that will do all of that shit. And I will find you someone who is not real.
Yeah. Well, let's go back again. So we think about it, as you were talking about processes, I go, well, everybody uses processes. If you have a recipe book in your house.
Yeah.
Okay. A recipe is a process.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I have a workshop that I do as I'm working with field sales managers and talking about the importance of processes in dealerships. And so I have a bowl, just a clear bowl I bring up, and I pass ingredients around to different people, and I put them in groups, and I say, okay, you've got sugar, you've got flour, you've got salt, you've got baking soda, you've got milk, you've got butter. So I pass it all around. And I said, I want everybody on your phone to find a recipe for a white cake.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to do that. And then whatever ingredient you have, I want you to come up and put that amount of ingredient in this bowl.
Yes.
Okay. And so, okay. And so it's not long before I have a bowl of crap that you could never cook or eat.
Oh, 100%.
Because they're all working off of a different recipe. I didn't tell them what recipe to look up. I said, find a recipe for a white cake mix.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you how many servings it should have.
Yeah.
Like this. And then they go like, would you eat this? And they go, no. And I go, it's just a mess. We've wasted all this time and money. Then I pull out a box of Betty Crocker white cake mix.
Yeah.
I said, all you need to do is add water and an egg.
Yes.
How many people could do that? And they go like, okay, that's the process.
100%.
The Betty Crocker box of cake mix is the process.
Absolutely.
It's already done. All you got to do is throw the labor in it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's the thing that people think about processes, again, is that it's difficult. I was thinking again, so if I were going to open up a food truck.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, I don't really know what I want to do, but I want to find out in my area what's the most popular food in my area on brick and mortar restaurants. And I want to do a food truck because I want to be a chef. I don't want to be a chef. But if I did, I'd go to chat, create a project. Okay. And I'd say, hey, this crazy part of chat, I want you to think like a chef. Okay. Because you give it the instructions. This is what I need you to think like.
Yeah.
This is the area. And I want to find in my area the most popular foods that people go to restaurants for that's casual food.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let chat do that. Okay. Then chat's going to come back and say, well, here's 4 different things.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you find as a chef in your truck, okay, I really think this would be a good idea. Then I go to my little crazy chat person in that project. And I say, now I want to find 5 of the absolute best recipes in all the world on the internet that's got the highest ratings for this type of food. And then chat would come in and say, okay, well, these are the 5 top ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Now keep in mind, this is probably taking 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I say, now I want to find the absolute best recipe.
Yeah.
For each one of those that I could do in a food truck with the things I'd have in a food truck to do. And then I want to know what price in my area I should be selling them for.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes later, it would give me the 5 items that are the best items. Here's all the ingredients to make them, how to make them. It built everything out for me. And in chat, I could probably do that in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And it's incredible. Excuse me. But yeah, no, I mean, and it's incredible. And because, I mean, the reality of it is in business, right? We are living in this constant chaotic curve. Like, and like you said, it's taking all of these ingredients because there's no process to it. Right. You're taking everything that, like, I'm going to become a food truck, right? Well, shit, I bought a food truck. I don't have any ingredients.
Although I'd have gone to chat and find out that where's the best place to buy a used food truck.
Yeah.
But, and what should I look at in terms of,
but you're starting at this and it's just like this chaotic curve.
Right.
And you're missing leads. You're forgetting tasks. You're, like it's a constant fire drill. Right. It's like, every time you turn around, someone's pulling the fire alarm and you're like, okay, chaos has just truly hit. And it's not necessarily that you're disorganized, right? So everyone who is doing that bowl to build your white cake recipe, right? It's not that they're not organized, right? They have their part organized. I know I need
flour.
I know I have this much flour.
Right.
Okay, cool. That's great. But the problem is it's not documented, right? And so with it not being documented, how does that become repeatable? It can't become repeatable, right? I can't say, hey, Bob, I'm bringing 3 cups of flour to this recipe. And you go, okay, that's great. And if I hand you that I'm bringing 3, you can say, you're bringing 3. I need to bring 2 cups of sugar to this.
Exactly.
So it's not the fact, and anyone who is listening, if you go like, oh, this is me, I am constantly living in chaos. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily disorganized. I could turn the camera around in the podcast studio. You would go, oh shit, that is disorganized, right? It's not disorganized.
Everything on this side is very organized.
Yeah, everything on this side is very
clean. Side, a lot of wires hanging around.
There is.
AV guys would not be happy with the other look.
But the reality of it is it works.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Is you guys are seeing us live, right? You're hearing us live. You don't need to see what that looks like, because it is the combobulation of everything that takes to make us live. But
exactly.
But with that saying, you might not be disorganized, right? You are not documented. And that's what processes are about. It is visualizing a workload. It is reducing the overwhelming feeling because, right, if I have it documented, I can delegate it.
Exactly.
And that's something I struggle with very, very much in my software company. I used to struggle until I brought on my COO. My COO, again, incredible. My CAO, incredible. Both incredible people. My CFO, all of my team, my whole team is incredible. I can't brag on them enough, but they reduce the feeling of overwhelming like tension because they go, okay, Brian, what you came up with, incredible idea, right? They're never going to tell me it's a bad idea. Well, Mike would. Michael would go, yeah, that's really fucking stupid. Get your head out of your ass. But they go, we're going to take this and we're going to build this into a process. So, and Michael does an incredible job with this. We back build it, right? So we go, this is where we want to end. And then we build backwards from that and say, in October, we're launching our software live, right? What are all the steps prior to that? So 2 weeks before we go live, what needs to happen? And so he documents that creates a relief from the overwhelming shit show that is my life. And then they also prioritize the impact. So we're curving the chaos. We are visualizing the workload. We're reducing the overwhelming feeling of just the chaos curve.
Right.
And then they're prioritizing the impact. And so with all of those things, that's where we get to a point where it's like systems equal sanity plus scale. Right. Is if I can visualize my workload, reduce my overwhelming feeling and prioritize my impact, systems equal sanity and skill. So as a question to throw to you, Bob, is what is one of the things that you have seen in dealerships? You go into a dealership, or you sent me into a dealership, right? I go into a dealership. I create a lot of chaos. I am the chaos curve.
You are.
Right. whenever I go.
Exactly right.
It is my job is to stop every single thing that they're doing because chances are it's not right. I restructure it, build that foundation. But then from that point, you are taking on it's overwhelming, right? They have new processes.
Right.
They don't necessarily know what to prioritize because I just fed them water through a fire hose.
Right.
And so what are the things that you look at and say, after Brian left a dealership, after he got done with his consulting side of it, what were the things that you followed up with that you go, okay, you have the systems. Let me show you how that equals sanity. And then let me show you how that scales. I mean, I think ties is a great example, right? Is there was a lot of chaos when we showed up, right? And now they're creating sanity and they're able to scale with their extra delivery drivers because they're pumping so much work out. But there was chaos because they're like, holy shit, we have something brand new.
Well,
so
and your point again, when you went to Ties, just for those, it's a huge outdoor power equipment dealer up in the Omaha area.
Yeah.
Very successful. They've bought a lot of other dealerships. I don't know, they got like 8 or 9 technicians that work on lawnmowers for practical purposes. Yeah. George is their service manager, a great guy. But like I said, Brian, when you went in, they had 8 people that were randomly doing stuff. Yes. I don't know how else to say it. They didn't have their shop set up correctly for flow. Yeah. So they had bottlenecks and all this stuff, which creates a problem in the service department because you got to move things 2 or 3 times to get it, and you're losing money there. But when you finished with it, you basically, what you do is you go in and say, okay, we're going to pause for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. And the most important thing in business is to understand it's okay to pause.
Absolutely.
If things are going wrong, don't think you working harder is going to improve.
100%.
If what you're doing is not working, more of it ain't going to make it any better. You got to pause, step back for a moment. Okay. And then reevaluate where you're at. And I see that's what businesses tend not to do. They think, well, I'm doing this, it's got to work. We just got to put more money toward it. We got to put more time in it. No, you're being a dumbass. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yes.
Okay. So if and I forget who said it. Somebody said, I think Albert Einstein was the one that said, if sanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different. So don't know if that's true or not, but it's a great quote. And Einstein was pretty smart, so I'm going to give him credit for it. 100%. But again, so we get into this trap of not pausing.
Yeah.
Okay. And a pause is the most important thing you do. I'm not talking about pausing for a week, or you just pause for a damn day.
Yeah.
If everything's falling, stop for a second, step back from it and look what's going on, which is what you used to do for me when you would go in. You would go in, you would evaluate everything on the first day, and then you would pause and say, okay, this is what the problem is. And then you would start helping them create their process. Now, where I came into it, you were there for a week. You did a Gordon Ramsay kitchen nightmare moment, and I love Gordon Ramsay, and I love to watch his kitchen nightmare.
Yeah,
makes me not want to eat at some place. I'll tell you that. But I would have, if Gordon's been there. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Anyway. But then what you and I have a conversation with. So I'm not there, but before you leave, you and I do a Zoom meeting with all of the team. And you've now explained to me, you've got the process all laid out.
Yeah.
You know what the measurables are by technician. I know what I should be able to expect out of each technician. And then in their case, George, who's the service manager, and he does a great job, he measures, because you've got all the systems set up for him now to start measuring things correctly.
Yeah.
And to your point, so this is a dealership that was making good money.
Yeah,
Ties
absolutely.
Was a profitable dealership.
Yes.
But they got to a point now where they are turning out so much work that they couldn't get it delivered fast enough.
Yeah.
And that became the bottleneck. So they had to hire a whole nother delivery person.
Yeah.
Because with the same 8 people, they're turning out twice as much work because they had the correct process.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's George's job now. George is to make sure that process keeps going. And we put bonuses in place. So their techs now are making more money than they've ever made because they're billing out more labor.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, processes create profitability.
Absolutely.
So when a dealer or a business is struggling with profitability, in almost all cases, their processes are broken.
Yeah.
I tell people again, businesses naturally make money.
And
you have to screw them up to make them go broke.
and what was that you said? Processes create what?
Chaos. Processes create profit.
Profitability.
Yeah.
Processes create profitability. And whether you're a TikTok streamer, whether you're a Twitch streamer, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're an entrepreneur who's opening I talked to an incredible entrepreneur today who is doing this handmade in Hawaii limoncello. It's going to be incredible, and I cannot wait to try it. Or doesn't matter who you are. A sign company out of Minnesota. Great friends of mine, started really working with them. If you need a sign, let me know. I'll get you connected with the most incredible sign maker I've ever met. Based out of Minnesota, they ship countrywide. But without those things, without processes, it doesn't matter who you are. But processes, from sign making to making limoncello to streaming to podcasting to whatever it is, lawn mowing, lemonade stands. Without the processes, you will not be profitable.
You will not. You
will be profitable.
Yeah, you will make some money, but you'll never make the kind of money your business could make.
Absolutely.
You know, and I have that with dealers all the time. People say, I'm really tired of not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I go, well, is that why you got in business? They go, well, hell no. I go, so how long have you been tired of not making a lot of money? He says, well, I've been in this business 30 years. And so I'm 30 years and tired of it. And I said, well, what would happen if in 90 days I can make your business profitable?
Yeah.
And they go like, well, that's not possible. And I go, well, let's say it is possible.
Yeah.
And then I say, this is what we're going to do. But you got to, and I talked about that with Mike and Cass. What irritates me is somebody hires me to help them and then they won't take my advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they don't believe it's possible because they couldn't figure it out. But I've been doing it 40 years.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and so, and then all of a sudden they start going like, oh my God, I didn't ever believe my shop could be profitable.
Absolutely.
I tell people a service department is like having an ATM outside of a casino.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All it does is kick off cash.
Well,
you know, but then they start to get it. Then once they get it, right.
Yeah.
Then they go, okay, what's our next step?
Yeah.
And then some never get it. I've had people before saying, well, you know, we're just not willing to make those changes that you're at. And I'm not asking you to steal from people, being dishonest or whatever. I'm just saying, look, you're in business to make money. So let's make money.
Well, and the nice thing is whether you are, it doesn't matter what industry you are, is the process of business is the process of business.
Exactly right.
Is it doesn't, like, what we're talking about doesn't just apply to outdoor power equipment or power sports dealers. Is if you start and you say, okay, you know, I'm going to start with this one thing, right? And the key to it is where you start is don't start with everything. Like, don't go into ChatGPT and say, I need a full process for my full business, right? It will give you a full process for your full business, but it doesn't understand the full process of your full business. So start with one task that drains your time every week. Look at something and say, this is something that every single week, it is a time suck. It drains my time and I fucking hate doing it. Right. And start with that. And so it's, hey, chat, right? Help me document this task like a playbook I can hand off to my employee and then describe that that task. So if you are struggling with it, that is my challenge for this week is the first thing you need to do is go into ChatGPT and say, hey, chat, help me document this task like a playbook that I can hand off to an employee and then describe that task. And describe it with as much detail as you can possibly describe it. The more detail you do it, the more detailed chat's going to be with it. Or even better with that is, hey, chat, create a template for X task, right? And so you now have a template, whether it's through Google Docs, whether it's through Word, whether it's through Canva, any of those, the things, is you now have a template that you can send to your employees and say, this is a form that needs to be filled out. This is every step that needs to be done. And it's repeatable, because a process is great, but if it's not repeatable, what's the point of the process?
Like I say, it's like a cake recipe.
100%.
I want to, if I'm going to follow a cake recipe, I want it to come out the same thing every time. The other cool thing about chat, and again, I love chat, and I know there's some other language models out there.
Absolutely.
Chat, but chat's to me is very convenient. But if I don't know where to start, then I can say, hey, chat. And by the way, I never call it hey, chat. I'm nice and polite to it, because someday it's going to turn on me.
100%.
And I wanted to remember that Bob was actually a nice person. So anyway, but I said, I need help. What questions do I need to answer for you that would help me help you get better instructions? And literally, I've done that before. And it says, well, these are answers that I need to questions that would give me the ability to help you more.
Absolutely.
You know, so literally chat will help you fill in the information. And then to your point, Brian, if you're in the paid version of chat, create a project for that. So don't keep doing the same thing in the same project, because then it becomes confusing to chat.
That's me.
Okay, don't do that, because I tell people, I see chat as lots of little people, and we call their little people projects.
Absolutely.
And so every project has its own instruction as we go through and do it. So if I were creating, let's say if I wanted to do a business plan for let's say I want to paint houses. And I need to do a business plan. So I would say, chat, and I wouldn't say, chat, I need help in knowing what questions to ask you that would help me build a business plan for my, let's say, credit union, because their needs are going to be different than maybe a bank.
Yeah.
And then chat will say, these are the things that I need to know from you. And then you fill those in. Right. And then it starts to build it. And then you go back and say, okay, now I also need this. And then you just keep adding to the instructions.
Absolutely.
And then before long, it's created this new little person that knows everything that you need to know about this.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's the key to chat.
Yeah.
It's creating the projects.
Well, and I will say, I mean, personally for me, and this is just how I work with Chat GPT, is I talk to chat as if I'm emailing someone. Right. And so every time, like you said, you don't say, hey, chat. I say, I might, in the first thing in the morning, I say, hey, good morning. I said, this is what I'm working on today. Right. And I type it out as if I'm consulting with you, or if I'm consulting with Mike and Cass, because that creates for me an additional transparency and that personality that I am wanting back from Chat GPT. Right. I wanted to give me and it has created that knowledge that it is my consultant. Right. And so I talk to it so that it maintains that feeling that is pushed back onto what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
But I think one of the biggest things is first off, again, create processes. Processes create profitability.
Exactly.
I'm going to push that and push that and push that and push that. And if you follow me on Instagram, TikTok,
I
YouTube,
need to write a new book.
Yes, I'll write it with you.
Okay, all right, that's great.
I'll write it through Chat GPT. Chat GPT will write it for me with you. But processes create profitability. But one of the things that I will say is systems do not restrict you.
No,
right?
Not at all.
All they do is they release you.
Yeah,
and so if you feel constricted, if you feel stuck in something, the reason you are stuck in something is because either you didn't pivot. That could be a big thing. And we go back,
you're gonna buy a book called Shoveling Shit.
Yeah.
Talk about the importance of pivoting.
Yeah. If you feel stuck and it's not because of processes, you need to buy the book Shoveling Shit. If you cannot afford the book Shoveling Shit,
let us know. We will get you a copy.
First off, you don't have any processes because you're very not profitable if you can't afford $30 book.
You may just be starting out.
You could be starting out.
We've all been there before,
absolutely. So. But if you cannot afford the book Shoveling Shit,
I will send you a copy.
I will send you a copy. Personally, send you a copy. We will take care of that. But with that is you again have to go back. You have to create the processes. If you're not successful, it's not because you didn't hustle hard.
No, not at all.
It could be.
Well,
there's going to be people like,
I would say again, I think most people hustle in the beginning because they're passionate about it. They're just going in the wrong freaking direction.
100%.
You know, you're running toward your opponent's goal line. You're going to score for them. So the hustle is important. I think most people do, but they don't know the direction.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what processes give you. It's like a map.
Yeah.
Say, okay, I'm going from point A to point B. I'm a pilot. So, you get in the plane, you got a rough idea of where you're going to go because you have a limited amount of fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a flight plan, we call it. And I always laugh. A flight plan is so the FAA knows when you crash, kind of where to look for.
At what point during your flight? They were in the air for about an hour and a half. We know
they're going to be near Wichita.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all. Flight plan is instructions for the med team to find where you crashed.
Yeah, and if you watch Ron White, then you know that you'll beat the paramedics by at least 30 minutes.
Exactly. I love Ron White as a comedian. Yeah, so your crash will beat the paramedics by at least 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I mean, so again, I think most entrepreneurs start out with the hustle, but then they get discouraged. And they get discouraged because they're doing everything kind of freelance. They're just trying to figure it out. And you don't have to do that. I go back again, and we keep really pushing Cass and Mike's book, but it's all about cheat codes.
Yeah.
And again, if I were a brand new entrepreneur, I mean, I was blessed with, the E-Myth and Think and Grow Rich and some of those. So cybercytic Anetics is another book that I read that really kind of gave me a lot of direction in doing it. But the what Cass and Mike has is just it's good, it's clean. So again, if I were starting out, that's where you start. And then go from there.
Yeah. Well, and I again, like you said, do your research, right? There's so many people out there who succeeded. There's so many people who've gone through the shit, right? And And I can't emphasize enough that there's so many people out there who are willing to help, right?
Exactly.
But without stepping into that realm of saying I need help from an outside source, right? You have all of that knowledge. I don't want to say all of that knowledge, right? There's some personal knowledge that you don't gain from ChatGPT, but for $20 a month, get ChatGPT. It's the simplest things. But and it's even like when you were talking about the sales side of things, creating processes are incredible. And when we talk to Mike and Cass, sales is the key, right?
Sales is a process.
I could have the coolest invention. Henry Ford could have invented the car, but if he didn't know how to sell it, what was it going to be?
Exactly.
It was going to be a buggy that didn't have a horse.
Right. And
no one would have cared. Like, it's like, well, that's great, but my horse does a fine job. Right. And so you've got the eight greatest sales secrets.
Yeah,
right.
My book. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have the 8 greatest sales secrets. You have shoveling shit. I always encourage everyone to go back and say, where did my journey start? Right. So you have grade school.
Right.
And so go back. Don't forget where you started with your grade school, like what pushed you to become to where you were at, understand the oh, I don't know. We got disconnected there for a second. Understand that sales is king when it comes to it. And then understand the shit that you have to shovel to get to that point. Now, as we kind of wrap this up, is I want everyone again to go back and create a process with ChatGPT. As you create a process with Chat, is come back, send us a message, comment on our YouTube video, on TikTok, on Twitch, on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever you're watching it. Come back and comment on it and say, this is the process that I was able to create, right? And then I'm going to come back and ask you and say, how difficult was that? Mm-hmm. Was that worth the last 20 years of frustration that you've experienced? Exactly. And how is it benefiting you at this point? And then in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to come back and ask you again and say, hey, how has this benefited you? Is the process producing profit? And if you say yes, I'm going to cheer on for you. If you say no, okay, maybe it's time for us to look at a pivot. Maybe there's something there. Exactly. Because if you create the process and you're not gaining the profits from the process. Right. Now, and don't expect the profits to come instantaneously, right? It's just because I have a process doesn't mean I have to build.
But you're not losing money with a process.
Absolutely.
Right. If you don't have a process, you're instantly losing money.
Yeah.
You're not, I mean, that's just the reality of it. So, you don't make billions of dollars in 1 week because you have this super process.
Yes.
Right. But you're building on it. Right. And that's the piece of it. Without a process, you're just freelancing it, flying by the seat of your pants. And you'll never make the kind of money you can make.
Oh, 100%. So, but with that, we are running out of time. So I am going to sign us off. Bob, it has been incredible. And honestly, I think that we definitely need to talk about processes again and start breaking down just on an entrepreneurial level. Sure. Maybe not just not business specific, but on an entrepreneurial level. And you guys let me know if there is a point or if there's something in your business that you go, hey, I would love some help building a process for this, or I don't know where to start. And we're giving you the cheat code, because when you started your business, did ChatGPT give you the processes?
I didn't even have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Pagers were just becoming around.
Yeah.
Now that I can see that you could blow up with a pager, I would never wear one.
but
no. I had a phone booth. That was my connection.
Well, and that's the thing, is we're giving you guys the most updated technology based tools that you can have as an entrepreneur. Don't be afraid to use it, and don't feel bad for using it, right? It is a tool. Just like a mechanic uses a wrench, a mechanic doesn't feel bad for using a wrench instead of using his fingers to lose. Right. It is a tool that it is as capable and as powerful as the person holding it. And that is what AI is. And so don't be afraid to use it. But if you have questions, if you have something that you want to talk about, if you're struggling building a process or asking the right prompts, message us. And then we are going to do a series, probably 4 or 5 podcasts of building processes as an entrepreneur, business wide.
That'd be a blast. I would love to work and again do a podcast on, okay, here's the instructions for Chad to do this.
Yes.
And have worked them all through already. Because again, I think that's part of what both of us can bring is I know what instructions to give Chad, and I know how to communicate with Chad because Chad likes me because I don't call it chat. It may not like to be called chat. It just go, hey you.
Hey, you call it by its Chinese name.
Yes, hey you. Hey you.
Hey you.
So that was pretty much politically incorrect.
We're unplugged, we're unfiltered. We have a great time, but I do appreciate everyone who's here. I appreciate you guys all. Again, this is our celebration of our 10th episode. We have made it we've made it farther than 95% of all podcasts that have ever made it. And I will say that it is not because of me. It is because of Bob that we have gotten to this point where we're at. It's because of our incredible guests, and it is because of you guys as viewers that we've gotten to this. But with that, we're going to go cheers to it offline. And we're going to unplug, but catch us next week. We're going to have an incredible podcast as we always have. Even if it's not incredible, we're going to tell you it's incredible because that is the power of sales.
Exactly right.
It is the best.
You don't know yet how good it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, even Joe Rogan is going to be envious of our next.
He is not.
No, he's not. But you can believe that he will be.
Yes.
And we believe that
in our minds, we will.
So with that, you guys have an incredible night. We appreciate you all so much. And Bob, I appreciate you being sticking with me through this shit show that we call entrepreneurship and podcast hosting. Yeah, it's been a blast. I love it. And I say that we will see you guys next week for number 11 as we work on our road to 100. Once we get to 100, we are going to throw a freaking party. It's going to be a blast. So anyways, with that, we're signing off. We're unplugging. You guys have a great night. We will catch you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows of next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows of next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now.